when you are lifting weight, the entire point is that your muscle is tearing essentially, and then it's going to grow back bigger and stronger and more defined. And why bother weighing yourself when you could just roll around in broken glass, set yourself on fire, and feel the same way? I don't know. But I do know that many of you are still weighing yourself. So today we're going to talk about possible causes of a jumpy scale and what, if anything, you should do about it. But first, if you have not subscribed yet, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell to be notified every time I come to you guys with information on eating all the food, lifting all the weight, and looking all the good. So let's talk about scale. You're chasing that elusive scale weight. From the moment that you were brought into this world, you were placed on a scale. That's right. Your entire worth and being as a human was determined by that scale weight right then and there. That's how it began, right? Once upon a time. So, for so many years, we have been told that that scale weight means health. And maybe it did for you as a newborn baby, but maybe not so much now. I understand we still have BMI charts and things like that these days for adults that are being used every time you step into the doctor's office. But that does not mean that the scale is always going to be a good indicator of whether or not you are making the physique progress that you want or even the health progress. But that is another video for another day. Right now, we're going to be talking about, despite all of my feelings about the scale and weighing in and the mental torture that it takes you through when you're constantly watching that number and waiting for it to move, I do know that some of you, and even myself, I get it, I do still have clients that will hop on the scale and will use it as part of our toolbox. So if that's you, I want you to be able to understand a little bit more about what is going on with the scale and why it may be all over the place from one day to the next. So, some possible causes of a jumping scale. The first one is probably obvious to most people, but maybe not so much as far as in the grand scheme. And that is the time of day, week, month, whatever. Typically, we think about this in terms of the time of month, especially women who understand that, like, okay, our weight fluctuates around our period. But really, all times of the day and week are going to present different scale weigh-ins. So obviously when you wake up, most of us have known that, especially anyone who's done Weight Watchers or more like scale-based things, that the second that you wake up and go to the bathroom, your weight is probably going to be the lowest that it possibly is because of the fact that you just woke up and you haven't been eating for 6 to 8 hours or however long you've been sleeping. So the scale is always going to jump around throughout the course of the day. The second that you start putting food into your belly, the second that you drink your coffee and do all the things, that scale is going to start having some fluctuation. So the time of the day is always going to matter. Obviously, if you're searching for that lower weigh-in, then you're probably going to weigh in first thing in the morning, but also it's about tracking it the same way every time. So if you weigh after you drink your coffee, then weigh every time after you drink your coffee so that at least it's consistent. That's the biggest thing with the scale is the consistency in how you're weighing, not necessarily what it's telling you. Because if you're weighing under different circumstances, if you weigh on a Monday after a weekend full of all the eat, and then you weigh again on a Wednesday or Thursday after you've been kind of like on track with your plan, those are going to give you two different weigh-ins. So maybe not necessarily comparing them to each other, just understanding that your Monday weigh-ins will always be higher than your Wednesday or your Fridays or something like that. So figuring out which day of the week gives you the lower weigh-in is probably going to be the way to go if you're trying to compare that number and actually see it trend down. Now, time of the month, whole different beast, because I'm not sure how your menstrual cycle goes, but as somebody with endometriosis, this is something that has been a thorn in my side as far as weight loss goes. Because with endometriosis, you can retain a ton of water during that time of the month. Like, I will gain anywhere from 5 pounds, 10 pounds, and beyond. And if we're talking about look, we're talking about a 3 to 6 month pregnancy look going on here, especially in the belly gain, that endo belly. So this is something that I am extremely familiar with, is that time of the month gain. One of the more important things to understand there is that we tend to think of our time of the month or that period weight gain as actually being on your period. The problem with that is that the weight gain is happening all around it. So if you are trying to nail down the perfect weigh day, then it's also good to know what's happening during other parts of your cycle. So for me, like I said, I tend to slowly balloon up to about 5 to 10 pounds heavier over the course of my cycle, but a big chunk of that happens seemingly overnight. One of the things that I also know, though, from the years of trying to pick the perfect weigh day is that I have one, maybe two, but typically only one, and it's very short-lived, super lean days, probably like 1 to 2 days before all the madness. I call it the calm before the storm. So that's something that you may notice for you. So for me, if I am trying to track that perfect weigh day, I know that it's going to happen around then. So I'm really only going to get that dip in my weight trend about once a month. So knowing that helps me to calm the F down the rest of the month. But if you don't know that for yourself, then you can spend all month long stressing about the fact that it's picking up, and then you're changing all sorts of things to try to figure out what's going on. So one of the things that I would recommend is that if you are someone who is weighing and you're trying to actually capture some data around this, then make sure you're paying attention to all of those little things and see after several months if there is a correlation to when your weight dips and when it spikes. And then just expect that to happen, and you can remain calm during the other parts of the month. So just something to think about. Get to understanding your own cycle so that you can figure out how and where that applies to you. But like I said, for me, it's going to be about 1 day, and the rest I'm all over the place because of a lot of the other things that we're going to talk about today. So in addition to the time of day, week, month, you also want to think about the type of workout that you've done before the weigh-in. So this could be either the type of workout that you've been doing all week that kind of compounded into this one weigh-in, like if you're the type of person that's weighing in like once a week, which is kind of like weighing is one of those things that if you're doing it at all, you probably need to be doing it more frequently because of all those fluctuations until you nail that day, like I was saying before. But if you're someone who say is weighing in every Friday, then you need to take into consideration the workouts that you've been doing that week. Or if you're weighing every day and you're seeing these crazy spikes, take into consideration the workout that you did the day before. So I don't have to tell you at this point, I hope that strength training is hands down the way to like really, really change your body composition, meaning the way that your body will look when you look in the mirror. If that is not something that you already know, then check out my other videos because I harp on that in so many other areas. But one of the things that you need to know about strength training is that it causes water weight gain. This is why a lot of women tend to shy away from it, because when you weight lift, you start to notice the scale increase, and people think that they're either adding on a ton of muscle or just that weightlifting is making them fat or bulking them up or whatever. And typically, if this is happening within like a week time span, then that's not really what's going on there. It's more of the water retention as your body adapts to the workout. Whereas cardio can make you lose weight almost immediately. But that is dehydration, people, not actual fat loss. So if you do a cardio session and then you get on the, do you guys remember that commercial? In the comments, let me know below if you remember that commercial where, I don't even remember what the ad was for, where the guy is running around, like he goes and does cardio. Is it a guy? Is it a girl? I don't know. I'm veering off topic. But he goes and he does the cardio and then he gets on the scale immediately afterwards and is looking for that scale to have gone down. If that's you or if you've ever done that, you may have noticed that it actually went down. If you know what that commercial was for, let me know because now that's going to drive me crazy. But you will see that release. But that is because that is the amount of water that you just lost from that workout and you actually need to replace that water. So it's not really a good thing. Now, because of that though, a lot of women will tend to lean more towards cardio than weightlifting because of that water retention afterwards. That water retention is necessary for your healing. When you are lifting weight, the entire point is that your muscle is tearing essentially, and then it's going to grow back bigger and stronger and more defined and beautiful. But in order for that to happen, your muscle, right after the tearing, water is pulled into the muscle to help that healing process. Once it heals up, then it can release a little bit of that water. But remember, muscle without water is jerky. We don't want jerky. We want muscle. We want it to be full and fleshy. Sorry, vegan friends. That's probably not the best thing for you. But that's what muscle is, right? So you want that water retention during that healing process. It's not a bad thing, but it may show as a gain on the scale. Just something to keep in mind, not a reason to avoid lifting because, again, it is going to change your body like no other. Same thing goes for HIIT style workouts, anything anaerobic, HIIT, Tabata, intense CrossFit or circuit training type workouts are going to pump a little bit more water into your body, not necessarily reasons to avoid them, but it's just something to know. Drink lots of water, wear lots of leggings, it all works out. Because obviously this happens the most, it is most noticeable on leg day. If you've ever wondered why your jeans hate you after a good squat session, this is why. So just wear some leggings and move on with your life. So the next reason why kind of plays into what we were just talking about, and that's sweating. So just like I was saying with the cardio, if you have a very intense sweat sesh, or if you are out and about in the summer and you're sweating a lot, or you, God forbid, wear one of those crazy sweatsuits. Am I dating myself? Do people still do that? I don't know. But I know in the 80s and 90s, they were like really big to wear those sweats to the gym to like sweat it out. But sweat is not fat frying. It is just your body losing water and becoming dehydrated. So if you sweat a lot and you lose a lot of weight, you probably just need to drink more water. It's not necessarily a fat burning tool. So replace that water if you're losing it from sweat. On that note, obviously, if you're an old faithful weigher, I don't have to tell you that clothes weigh things. I'm sure at this point, if you're a dedicated scale person, you're probably already stripping off everything, including like hair bows, earrings, when you get on the scale because you don't want anything extra on there. So I'm not going to harp on that too long, but just know, again, that's one of those kind of time of day things. If you weigh first thing in the morning and you just have like a t-shirt and your underwear on, and you weigh later at night and you have on a t-shirt and jeans, that in and of itself could cause a little bit of a dip. So again, I know you already know that stuff, so we're not even going to talk about it anymore. But one of the things that I do want to make sure that we discuss in a little bit greater detail is carbs. Yes, the dreaded carbs. The amount of carbs that you eat will affect your water weight and your retention and what the scale shows. This is not the horror of horrors that we have made it out to be. But let me know in the comments how you feel about carbs. Maybe you're anti-carb. I am not. I love my carbs. So if you don't, just something to be fully aware of as I talk. Because I am always going to talk about both sides, but I am coming from the perspective of a professed carb lover. So one of the things that you want to know about carbs is that for every gram of carbs that you're eating, your body's going to pull about 3 to 4 times that in its water weight. So a gram of carbs, it's going to pull in about 3 to 4 grams to help your body to not only store but process those carbs. This means that a 200 carb meal, maybe you went on a date night or decided to treat yourself somewhere or whatever, you stopped in a drive-thru because life, right? If you added just an extra 200 grams of carbs in that specific meal above and beyond what you normally eat, then your body's going to pull in anywhere from 600 to 800 grams of water to help your body process that. That can show as 1 to 3 pounds of water weight. So that's just something to keep in mind. Again, that's not something to say that you should avoid carbs. It's just to understand that if you eat a certain amount of carbs all the time and you veer from that one day and the scale shows it, that's all that's happening. Some extra water got pulled in. So maybe drink a little bit more water, have some potassium-rich food, things like that to help to, calm it down if you really need to, or just allow your body to process it and resume eating normal afterwards, and you'll be fine. This isn't something to run away from, because what happens is that then you kind of start a nasty cycle, and this also plays into my next one, which is sodium. When it comes to sodium and when it comes to carbs, a lot of times people spend all of their time trying to avoid them, and when you're doing that, all you're doing is adjusting your body's sensitivity to them. So when you have these upswings in the water retention that you have because of having, say, too much sodium, that's only because maybe you weren't having that much. So if you keep lowering it more and more, and the same thing with carbs, if you keep reducing them more and more because you're trying to avoid water weight, you become more sensitive to them the second that you add them back, the second that you veer from what your body sees as normal. So when it comes to your carb intake, if you're having just a normal carb diet all the time, then you're probably going to be walking around with 1 to 3 pounds of water weight at any given time. And that's okay. That's how the quick fixes tend to suck you in, because as soon as they can lower your carbs a little bit and you lose that 3 pounds, you're like, woo! And you think it's a big deal. And then as soon as you add them back in, you gain weight and you think, oh, I can't have this. It makes me gain weight. And it was just all water. So that's something to take into consideration, that maybe just accept that you're 3 pounds heavier than you were, or just be okay. You wouldn't even know the 3 pounds was there if you didn't do all the water sodium strategies. So just pick a level that works for you and get okay with the weight that's at that level, and do other things to manipulate actual fat loss versus focusing so much on weight loss. So there's another topic for another day as well. So you can check out other videos about that. That is just a few of the reasons why your scale would be jumpy. Hopefully that is starting to speak to you a little bit more, and hopefully you are starting to see that even though there are tons more things that cause a jumpy scale, like how long your food takes to digest, like how much sleep you've had, like how much stress that you've had, which I can go into more detail on all of those things as well. But the point is to understand that a lot of the things that actually cause you to have these spikes on the scale are also things that are very good for you. They're healthy for you. They're part of a normal lifestyle. They're part of a healthy lifestyle. And they're also part of the things that are going to help you to lose fat. So spending all of your time trying to chase down the perfect way to avoid scale weight can actually cause more harm than good, especially if it's just finicky 1, 3, 5 pounds that are just coming from regular day-to-day fluctuation. It's more important for you to find out what your trends are and actually be consistent with the behaviors that are going to help you lose fat if that is the thing that you're after. So remember, the scale is just part of your arsenal. You can use it, but also make sure you're taking pictures. Make sure you're taking measurements. Because often when you are on a fat loss journey, you will see changes in pictures and measurements way before you see that trend of the scale become a jump on the scale. So focusing on the day-to-day, lost half a pound, gained 0.3 pounds, thing that a lot of us tend to do when we're focusing on the scale, that can actually hold you back because you're spending more time in the minutia and changing things up every other day rather than staying consistent with something for 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks, and then stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, literally, because you're taking pictures of what's actually happening, and also a bigger picture of what's happening with those, like I say, month to month trends. And is your weight trending down? Is your body fat trending down? Are your measurements changing? Are you looking better in pictures? And I would say, if you do notice that you are looking better in pictures and measurements are going down, but the scale isn't moving, keep doing what you're doing. Don't change a thing, because of the fact that clothes and the way that you perceive yourself in the mirror literally have nothing to do with weight. So if you can break the correlation mentally that you have with those things, you're going to do 10 times better. So if you're seeing that trend, then I would keep doing what you're doing. if you're seeing the scale move a lot and you're not seeing changes in your measurements or in your pictures, I would reconsider whether or not you're losing the right type of weight, which that's something that I go into detail in other videos. If you want to check out my videos about the difference between muscle and fat loss versus weight loss, that is something to consider, because if you're losing weight but you're not changing, then what are you actually losing? And maybe reconsider that. If all of them are changing, then wonderful. But don't shun your results if you're seeing actual changes, but the scale isn't moving yet. It just may be lagging behind, which is often the case when you're on a fat loss journey. So let me know if you guys have any questions about that. Be sure to drop me a line in the comments below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more information on stuff like this, and I can go into more detail about any one of those if you like. But if you want more information about how to eat more to weigh less, or at least look like you weigh less, then go ahead and download our quick start guide. You can go to entwl.com/start, and I will send you a free guide for how to get started on this journey of eating all the food and losing all the weight eventually. But if you are not new, you want to weigh less and you want more information, then make sure you take our fat loss crash course, because that will get you up to speed on maybe what parts are missing for you to kind of know a little bit about eating more, but you want to go into more depth on what exactly to do. So make sure you watch these videos for more information on that, and I will see you guys in the next